much rights as men because Christ won a woman. But where did your Christ come from? Where did your Christ come from? From God and a woman. Man had nothing to do with him. If the first woman God ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down all alone, these women together ought to be able to turn it back and get it right side up again.
Pro-choice.
Pro-life.
Our future.
Is it your right?
My body, my choice.
The overturnment of Roe versus Wade has set us back 1,000 years. We are supposed to be moving forward, but I feel like we're going in reverse. And it's a sad day for the world. What I feel when I hear women's rights, I feel in my spirit strength, because the world would be absolutely nothing without women.
I feel that in a way it sets us back from women's rights. We should have the right to choose. No matter, when I weigh the pros and cons of the situation, when people are in that particular situation, no one wakes up to say, this is what I dream to be in. Things happen and every circumstance is different. And I shouldn't make that choice for the next person. Only you can make the choice for your life. I feel that taking that away from people, they're still going to find a way to do it. We already know from history what that looks like and what the end results are. But every woman should have the right to make the decision of how they want their future to look. We don't walk in each other's shoes. I don't know what you go through, and I don't know what it took you to get to that point to make that decision. So, that's one of the reasons why I stand with women's choices, because my situation is not your situation, and I shouldn't make a decision based off of my feelings for your life. So it should be women's choice.
I believe there's an enormous impact on overturning Roe versus Wade. One of them is the economic consequence. Our low-income people or people who are, or poor people, that will completely put them in dire stress. We also have a situation of this being an oppression of women. We will have situations where all of the health benefits that we have as women will be taken away from us. When it comes to making sure that our bodies are healthy, our reproductive systems are healthy, just the whole situation when it comes to women's health will be, I believe it totally will take away from what we need as women. This is a travesty. That's how I feel about it.
So before January 22nd, 1973, under the decision of Roe v. Wade by the Supreme Court, pregnant women and the providers of abortions could be brought up on charges for performing the procedure by various states. Abortion, or rather the killing of a healthy fetus, was never legal. It was always something that was done underground. After the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision, women and the providers of abortions were given protections, benefits, coverages from being brought up on charges for performing the procedure. On June 24th, 2022, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade and removed that protection.
The impacts of Roe versus Wade being overturned are really critical. There are women who have had to terminate pregnancies due to medical issues. It was life or death for the mother if she maintained a pregnancy, or mothers had to keep pregnancies for children who are not thriving in utero. some people would consider that cruel to know that a child is not going to live long in utero and to force someone to carry the baby until they actually do pass and then go through a full labor and delivery experience with a baby that they knew was going to pass. It's basically like you're waiting and counting the clock until your child that you love inside of you passes away and naturally goes into labor. So that's kind of cruel. It's not even kind of cruel. It is cruel. Everybody's situation is different. So you can't tell a person how to react and feel about things they're forced to do based on somebody else's law. The impacts further negatively affect women who are victims of rape or incest and carry a pregnancy that they don't want, that they never did want. They didn't have a choice in being raped, and they also don't have a choice to not have to live with a reminder of what happened to them. So there are a couple of things that negatively impact. And as for the positives, I just think the positives, some people would see the positives as just a group of people got their way. So that's where I stand on that.
My take on the overturning of Roe versus Wade, I look at it this way. I feel like with the overturning of this particular case, I feel like that the government is going to have more of a stranglehold on the population of the United States. And the reason why I say that is because of this. We're opening up a can of worms to where you're not going to be able to put that top back on that can of worms, because I don't think that they're going to stop with just this particular case. I think there are going to be other things that are going to take place to where the government is going to have an overreach to the point where they're going to be able to control more of the masses based off of the laws and things that they're going to implement in this country. And as we've seen over the past couple of years, the government has gained more control and more access to the daily lives of everyone that is in this country. And I don't think it's going to stop. I think it's going to get worse. And I think, we're going down a dark road that is going to bring about certain circumstances in this country that we're not really ready for.
Americans took to the streets nationwide over the weekend.
The protests largely peaceful. Gatherings once again outside the Justice's D.C. area homes Friday and stretching from coast to coast today.
Thousands of pro-abortion rights activists jammed New York City traffic for hours. Others blocking a Los Angeles freeway.
This decision is an outrage.
This decision is absolutely terrifying, but more than anything, it just makes me angry.
What I feel when I hear women's rights, I feel in my spirit strength, because the world would be absolutely nothing without women.
See, if you didn't know, a right is a government mind trick. Those in power would rather have the law control everything you do. But since it's impossible for any government to control everyone's ideas and choices and actions, they have to create this illusion called rights. So rights, aka privileges, aka freedoms, aka benefits, are created by government powers to provide the illusion of control over choices that cannot be easily regulated or restricted. The word right in a political context means a privilege that is legislated by the government to some people or all people for them to do something or not do something without any kind of legal ramifications. The law that we live under is like a insurance coverage. It's a compact, a contract that we all agree to obey. So when a right is removed, it's basically like a benefit being removed from a insurance coverage. It's no longer covered under law. So if you perform that particular act, it's no longer going to be covered and protected by the government.
When I think of women's rights, the first thing that comes to mind, a woman's choice. I think that it makes me feel that we no longer are expected to just be wives, mothers, just sisters. We're now business owners. We have a voice. You can choose whether you want to be married. You can choose whether you want to have kids. And it doesn't make you less. You're not expected to just be one thing anymore. So women's rights to me means that we have choices now. It all comes back to that. We can choose what we want our future to look like. I think we've came a long way, but we are not at all where we should be. So when I think of the women's rights, I think of us having the choice. We can choose how we want our life to look like, and we are no longer expected to be boxed up in one predicament for our future. We can be whatever we choose to be.
So when I hear women's rights, I think of equality. I think of true equality. I think of power. I think of women that came together against all odds, against religion, against color and race. They came together and they decided to step up for each other and fight for their right to live. I believe that this is our way of fighting for our right to live, to be a woman. So that is what I think of when I think of women's rights. Equality, love, life.
When I hear women's rights, I hear women being elevated to, my mind tells me this has not all happened yet, but my mind straight shoots to women being paid equally, women having equal opportunities for every single thing that men have an opportunity to do. Young girls have opportunities to get involved in things that were typically deemed for boys in history. There once upon a time, there was an idea that young ladies weren't good at math and girls needed to stay in a girl's place and not bother themselves with the things that men would be concerned with. And I just think some of those things were ridiculous. And as we can see now, women are very successful mathematicians. We have a woman vice president. That's a taboo thing that nobody thought would happen. And I just think that women's rights includes us having opportunities to not just be given things, but just to have opportunity to strive for the same things.
When I hear women's rights, what do I think about that? This is my take on it. I feel like that has nothing to do with all women in this country. If you look at the inception of women's rights, that has nothing to do with black women or any woman of color in this country in its initial onset, as far as, coming to the forefront. That was an issue that was between white women and white men, because number one, white men have the power in this country. So therefore, they were able to enact laws that basically stop women, not just white women, but women of color as well, from achieving certain rights in this country. But on the flip side of that, as it pertains to women and black men were fighting for rights together, not separately. And that's what sparked the civil rights movement. So when I hear the term or statement, women's rights or woman has rights, is funny to me because people tend to overlook the fact that when white women were fighting for their rights, they were battling white men, but black women had no fight in that as far as the way that white women were fighting for their rights. Black women didn't have a problem with black men at that particular time. We had a problem with the system as a whole. So our women did something that was totally different from what white women were doing until, years later when they convinced the black woman to get on their side as far as women's rights. But in its initial onset, that didn't happen like that.
What I feel or wish for this next generation is that they love themselves first. Secondly, embrace and love people no matter what race, gender, and then just respect another human right to choose whatever it is that they want to choose. They're living their lives, not yours. So just respect the human right.
My hope for our next generation is just to be greater, be better, make better decisions than what my generation has done, the generations before. Don't be so judgmental. Know that we all come from different walks of life. Know that we all have different circumstances. Have empathy for your fellow human being, your friend, somebody you don't know. You don't know what people go through. So before you judge, I think that we should learn people and understand them, whether you agree completely or not, but understand that when people make decisions, they're making the best decision for their life. It may not fit your box of what the best decisions may be, but understand that we are all different. We all think different. We all respond different. We all have different mental health situations. So I just think that we should all keep that in mind. But for our next generation, just have empathy. Learn to listen. Learn not to be so judgmental, and just be greater than what you see now. And I think that that will make all the difference.
My hope for the next generation is that they do way better than what we're doing. I hope they don't f it up. I hope they are able to do a better job than what we have done. That includes my generation and the generations before me. We have pretty much messed up things in this country and pretty much the entire world. So my hope for the next generation and the generations to come after that generation, or those generations, is that their moral compass is to the point where good does not seem bad, and bad is not put in a way to where it is good, because that's pretty much what we're dealing with in this country, to where everything is upside down, inside out, and reversed. What's good is bad and what's bad is good. So my hope for the generations that are to come, I hope that they are way more intelligent than what we are. And I also hope that when it comes to their moral values, those convictions to doing the right thing, I hope they stick to that and, make this nation as well as the world a better place.
So my hope for the next generation is hopefully they have learned from the past. Hopefully they have learned that putting someone else's feelings, putting someone else's life in perspective or understanding, or at least giving a person the choice, the right to do what it is they need to do for themselves. They have learned that that is what we need to do as people. I shouldn't immerse myself or put myself in a position of telling another person, a male, a woman, or anyone, what they should be doing with themselves. When it comes to, as long as you're not hurting yourself, as long as you are putting yourself in a place where you understand that this is the consequence, and God has given us all the choice, the understanding of, if you do this, this is the consequence. And as long as you have the understanding of your consequence, as long as you understand that this is your choice, this is what you choose to do, no one else should be able to tell you anything else other than that. Our generation, the next generation, I just hope that you are more empathetic of other people, sympathetic of other people. All of those things that we need in this generation that we hope we get in the next.
My hope for the next generation is understanding. You're either on this side or you're either on that side. There seems to be no middle. Either you are for it or you're against it. The people that kind of sit in the middle are forced to decide which side they skew more towards. So my hope for the future generation is that they're able to meet in the middle, come across the aisle, form bridges that accommodate or try to accommodate everybody.
Well, I'm hoping that people will become more cautious with their actions regarding unprotected sex because of the possible outcome, which is pregnancy. It's a shame that we're to the point where we've gotten accustomed to the norm of being able to skeet without any consequences, because we have a number of contraceptive measures to help prevent pregnancy. So when we do get involved with unprotected sex, it becomes a shock Like, oh, I didn't expect for this to happen. What did you think was going to happen? And that's what happens when you have intercourse. When a male and female join together without any restrictions or boundaries during sexual intercourse, there's a high chance that you're gonna become pregnant. So you need to be ready for that responsibility. Just because you have the option, the benefit of an abortion, meaning to kill the fetus, kill the kid, because it will inconvenience your life, I don't think that's smart. I don't think that's smart. You're banking on a procedure to suck out the kid, suck out the fetus, in order to benefit your irresponsibility.
When an ectopic pregnancy ruptures, what are the chances that it can be carried to term? And you know what, just to make this even clearer, I'm looking for a number between 0 to 100. Can you give me a percentage?
Sure. I believe 0 ectopic pregnancies, even those that do not rupture, have a chance of successfully being carried to term. That's why the treatment for them is not an abortion.
Reclaiming my time. It seems that there is a deficit in your understanding of reproductive health. That according to the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, treatment for ectopic pregnancy requires ending a non-viable pregnancy. So now I'm going to turn to the real experts.
That's not an abortion because it does not have the intent to end the life of a child.
Reclaiming my time.
I do not believe a man should have a voice in something that's happening with a woman's body. You're not a woman. You don't have to carry a child if you choose not to. You don't have to do any of these things that this particular person would have to do. And so for you to immerse yourself into a conversation of something that you don't belong in that conversation at all. In order for you to have a voice on something that is about me, about a woman, about what I do, what we do in our lives, with our bodies, our reproductive system, any of that, then I believe that you are putting yourself in a position of basically trying to enslave me as a woman. It's the step. Anybody have ever watched Handmaid's Tale? Take a look. That's how I feel this is the beginning of what the male society is trying to walk us into.
I understand it takes one to carry a child, but I also understand that it takes two to make a child. So since it takes two to make a child, then it should take two to raise a child, not having one decide if they should terminate the child. There are many levels to Roe v. Wade, but one of the main levels to this is control. So on one side, you got one group screaming, pro-life, pro-life, pro-life. That's just a logo. That's not what they actually mean. What they really mean is that people, or rather women in this case, lack a sufficient standard of morality to make proper choices in life. So in a sense, they want you to make decisions that make them feel comfortable in their beliefs. Now on the other side, you got another group screaming, pro-choice, pro-choice, pro-choice. The beliefs behind this group is that people, in this case again, women, don't have the mental capacity to make the right decisions. So because they believe that you're going to make the wrong choice, they give you a way out. That way out is abortion.
Should men have a say in what we do with our bodies? Absolutely not. If men have the right to tell us what to do with our bodies, then we should have the right to tell them when they should get a vasectomy.
Should a man have a voice in the subject? I know it's going to be a lot of people who is going to be like, girl, no. But I feel like, to be fair, men and women both we speak on things of each other that we shouldn't, or what people think we shouldn't anyway. But I believe that everyone should have a voice in every situation, whether you agree with it or not. But men should be able to speak their truth on what they feel on this situation. Now, does it throw away what we know and feel and what we have to go through? No, but men should be able to speak their truth. And we should be okay with understanding that we all have different views and understandings of each other and do it respectfully. But yes, I do believe that men should have a stance in this.
I think that depends on the individual, or the man, I should say. And the reason why I say this is because it is. If he doesn't want to be a part of the child's life, if he doesn't want to have anything to do with the woman when she tells him that, you know, she's pregnant with his child, and he proceeds to act in an ill manner, then no, he shouldn't have. He lost all his rights at that point, because she's trying to give him a say-so in the matter, and he doesn't want to say so, nor does he want the child. So when it comes to a situation like that, no, I don't think so. But if that individual is willing to take care of that baby, regardless of whether the woman wants to have this child or not, I feel like the man should have some input in that situation. And then when we're dealing with a situation like that, that doesn't necessarily mean that his input is based on the fact of whether she wants to keep the child or not. It may be based on the fact that this is a dangerous procedure, and he's more concerned about her welfare, her well-being. And in that case, I think that the man should have a whole lot of input. But, you know, like I said, it depends on the situation. It depends on, you know, the temperament of those two individuals as it pertains to, you know, the situation that they're in. But I think that if you do things together in that nature or in anything, I think that it should be, you know, some type of way to where you can come to some type of agreement to where both of you can have an input and get the best answer that you could possibly get.
Again, as a person who understands multiple sides of every situation, vantage points belong to the people that have that point of view. So I do think that men have rights to their unborn children. I don't think that we've figured out a way for those two people's opinions and wants to coexist. Because if a woman doesn't want a pregnancy, but the man who is fathered the pregnancy wants to have that child, he doesn't have a say-so according to my body, my choice. It's a sticky subject. I am just hopeful that we come to a resolution some kind of way that everybody feels, well, nobody will ever feel. It's impossible for an entire group to feel satisfied if something goes outside of the way they think it should go. So, I don't think that men that are not involved directly in the subject should have a say. I don't think that the law should dictate yes or no. I think that some of these matters should be domestic and handled between the two parties that are involved. So I don't have a fully educated answer on that one because right now men don't really have any rights when it comes to abortion, but they have been known to force women to have abortion. So yeah, there's a couple sides to that story, and we can go a long way with the different routes that question could take us.
Bye.